What is up, guys? This is Orca Flop, and today I'm coming at you with IndyCar news number 2. And today's IndyCar news is today. The TV schedule for IndyCar was released by NBC today, and they have now their whole 2019 TV schedule with times and channels. As now we've known this for a while that NBC has all the rights to all the IndyCar races, and they'll be showing all the IndyCar races. And ABC last year was their last year broadcasting, and NBC is got all the races, but each on different channels. So I figured this IndyCar news, I'd just be discussing, since the TV channels were released, and the TV schedule was released for IndyCar. I figured I'd tell you guys my thoughts about each race. There are 17 races in the IndyCar schedule, and some of them I'll talk about for a little bit of a long time, some I won't. So let's get started. First race on the 2019 IndyCar schedule is St. Petersburg. One of the most hyped up races is March 10th, 2019. It is at 1 o'clock Eastern time, and for time-wise, I think that's a good time because most race fans used to, have wanted it to go back to an earlier time, like 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, their times. And I think so far NBC is what I'm looking right now. I'll get on to times later, but so far I can just tell you what from this schedule already. The times, I think they've hit it out of the ballpark. I think it's perfect time-wise. This race is going to be shown on NBCSN, and I don't necessarily agree with this race in particular being shown on NBCSN. I think this should be shown on the main NBC for the main reason of this is the first race in the IndyCar schedule. A lot of people hype up for IndyCar racing to come back, and I think St. Petersburg is a valuable race because it's the start of a new season and it gets people amped up. So I think this should have been on main NBC, and I think with NBCSN it's not gonna get as big of a rating as I think it would be on regular NBC, considering not as many people can watch this race on NBCSN. So for that standpoint, I think that's not a good decision by NBC to put it on NBCSN, considering TV ratings won't be as high as they could be if they were on regular NBC for the season opening race. So I think that's pretty unfair. Second race, new track on the schedule, March 24th, 2019, is Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Again, this will be at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Again, time schedule, perfect. A lot of race fans like this time. This race is going to be shown on NBCSN. Another race that I think that should be shown on NBC for the main reason it's a new track, something new to IndyCar, and I think maybe we should give more people the opportunity to see IndyCar try something new. So, again, TV ratings are going to be pretty high for that race as well. Honestly, I think TV ratings are going to be high for all these races, but I'm just saying for some of these races they could be a little bit higher up if we showed them on main NBC. And I think this is one of those races we should be showing on main NBC. So, yeah. The third race we have on the schedule is on April 7th, 2019. It is the Grand Prix of Alabama at Birmingham. This race is going to be at 4 o'clock Eastern time. A little bit later than the last races have been, but I think that's a pretty solid time for race fans, considering I think at that point there's another race. I don't know if it's a NASCAR race or whatever, but hell, there might not even be a race. But it's a little bit weird. This is one of the few races. I think this is because it's not a race in the West, so I was kind of confused by the late timing, but this is one of the very few races that is kind of oddly timed or, going to be taking place. But I do agree with this race being on NBCSN as, Alabama, I think it's an underrated track. I don't think it gets recognized as much as it, used to. But this is a very fun race, but I agree. I think this should be shown on NBCSN, considering it doesn't have as much prestige as St. Petersburg and Circuit of the Americas are going to have. So I agree with that being on NBCSN. The fourth race of the season is April 14, 2019. That is the Long Beach Grand Prix in Long Beach, California. This race will be at 4 o'clock Eastern time, and that makes sense because for California, it should be at 1 o'clock. So that the later time on that race, that makes sense. This race will also be shown on NBCSN. I agree with this as well because, again, Long Beach is a popular race, but, you look at the overall perspective of the schedule, it's not as the biggest, TV rating. It's not the most money-bringing in race as, the Indy 500 or Texas or other races like that. So I agree with this being on NBCSN. Again, I see all these races increasing in TV ratings, considering I think all these are going to be easier to watch, but, some people don't have NBCSN, so that was what makes it hard. So, yeah, I think that that's pretty fair to have it shown on NBCSN. The next race, this is where we go into Indy 500 month. May 11th, 2019 is the Indianapolis Grand Prix. It is at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is going to be shown on the main NBC. I don't agree with this one because, I get it. It's, Indy 500 month. You want to focus on stuff it's all around basis on, the Indy 500. But I think, honestly, I even think, I say bump day. Yes, bump day, because everyone knows that bump day is going to have up to 40 cars possibly qualifying for the Indy 500 this year. So I think, honestly, bump day holds more prestige than the Indy Grand Prix. And, honestly, the Indianapolis Grand Prix has kind of turned into the Will Power show, seeing as he has really dominated that race in the last, 4 years. He may not have won them all, but, he's been very good in the Indy Grand Prix at the Indianapolis Road Course. I think this is one that should be shown on NBCSN because you compare it to Bump Day and qualifying in the Indy 500 itself. I think those actually hold more prestige than the Indianapolis Grand Prix itself. So this race should be shown on NBCSN. That's just my opinion. Number 6, of course, you have the Indianapolis 500. Now, this one kind of confuses me. This is May 26th. I can't read it that well. May 26th, 2019. Someone in the comments correct me on that. It may say 28. I don't know. I think it's 26 though. Of course, who would argue this? It's not being shown on main NBC. They've already promoted the Indy 500 on the Bears and Eagles game. Indy 500 is the most prestige race in IndyCar as of now. Well, it'll always be. I'm joking. But yeah, it'll always be the most prestigious race in IndyCar, and it's the one that's most marketable because it's just the Indy 500 is probably the biggest race in the world, and it holds so much prestige. So it makes sense that it be shown on NBC just to give everyone the regular NBC, just to give everyone else a chance to watch one of the biggest races in the world. So I think pre-race coverage starts at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Someone in the comments correct me on that, but if the race starts at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, then oh boy, I feel bad for the people who live in California. I really do. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's the race time or if that's pre-race and stuff like that. But if that's the actual time for the race, that's probably a poor decision. If I were them, I think I would start the Indy 500 at I'd say 1 o'clock Eastern Time. I think that's pretty good, fair, considering, it just seems like it's in the perfect middle of everyone's schedule, except maybe California, because that's going on 10 o'clock. So I don't agree with the time if this is the time of the race, then I really don't agree with it, because that's not, benefiting everyone's time schedule, and that makes it hard for people to get up and watch. So I think they should make it a little bit later, 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the Indy 500. That's all I can really say. This I kind of need to rant about for a little bit. Both of the Detroit races are 7th and 8th races in the season, and these are being shown on the main NBCSN. Really? The first races, both the first and the second race are being shown at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Again, that's a pretty fair time. I don't have a problem with that. But why the main NBC, you're just coming off one of the biggest races in the world, and you're going to both Detroit races that really have been crappy races, if you ask me. This is one of the things I don't like about IndyCar. I think they should really remove Detroit off the schedule and bring back Michigan International Speedway. I know that'd be a safety risk after what we saw with Robert Wickens at Pocono, bringing another big track, but even still, I think it would be a lot more entertaining than Detroit races have been lately. And these have been some of the lowest rating TV. These have been some of the lowest rated TV races for IndyCar, and I don't like the fact that they're being shown on the main NBC because it's going to be a little bit of a waste. Maybe they're showing it on the main NBCSN to hopefully get some more TV ratings, but in the end, I just don't see this race as worthy of being shown on a major broadcasting network. I think NBC Sports would be fine. because I just don't think that race should deserve to be on a main network since it doesn't hold as much prestige as other races that we're going to go through on the IndyCar schedule do. Race number 9 that a lot of fans tend to love. This is Texas Motor Speedway. That is June 8th. This is going to be shown on NBCSN. It'll be at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Again, it's a night race, so I think that I agree with the time there. It's pretty fit, especially if how, day transitions into night midsummer. This race is going to be shown on NBCSN. I think I agree with this one. The only NASCAR fans may not, so they could make them, because they probably just bitch about the fact, hey, you should put it on main NBCSN or main NBC so we get a better chance to watch an oval IndyCar race. I personally don't agree with that. I think it's pretty deserving of being shown on NBCSN. I mean, sure, again, if all of these got shown on main NBC, then it would increase every race's TV ratings. But we all know you can't do that. And I think this race, this is my opinion, I just don't think, Texas in recent years has been kind of the shit show or the Talladega of IndyCar, I guess you could say. So I don't necessarily agree when people say this should be shown on main NBC. I mean, I guess, if you want to really suit the fans that keep, complaining and whining about, IndyCar oval races not being shown and, marketed enough, then yeah, sure, go to main NBC. But other than that, I really don't see a problem with it being shown on NBCSN. Race number 10, we've already gone through 10 races now, or we've gone through 9 now. The race number 10 is Road America. This is June 23rd, 2019. This is going to be held at noon Eastern Time. So, again, kind of an iffy time schedule, especially people who live more towards the west of the United States or anywhere else in the country. I don't really agree with that time. Again, I move it to either 2 o'clock Eastern Time or 1 o'clock Eastern Time. I think that fits everyone's schedule pretty evenly. So I don't really agree with the noon. I think that's a bit early for especially people who live in the west of the United States. This race is going to be shown on main NBC. I don't think this one deserves to be shown on main NBC either, as I get Road America is a very marketable race and many people like to watch it, but honestly, there's a race coming up here that I think deserves that main NBC TV deal or TV schedule. But I just don't. I like Road America, but I just don't think it's deserving enough to be on main NBC. As this race hasn't had the greatest TV ratings, but hasn't had the worst. It's kind of like in that mid between. So I think for that reason alone, it should be shown on NBC Sports. So, yeah. Toronto is race number 11. That is July 14th, 2019. This race has got a pretty good time schedule. It's 3 o'clock Eastern Time. That fits everyone's schedule pretty evenly. I agree with the time, with the channel on this. It's going to be shown on NBCSN. Again, this race last year was very good and exciting to watch, but again, it doesn't hold as much prestige as other races do, so I think it's pretty fair to be shown on NBC. Race number 12 is Iowa. This is July 20th, 2019, and this is going to be a night race. They're going back to the Saturday night race. I'm pretty sure it's Saturday night race. It's going to be held at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, and it's going to be shown on NBCSN. This is where I think Road America and Iowa should be swapped. I think Road America should be on NBCSN and Iowa should be on NBC. Iowa hasn't had a Saturday night race since 2014, 2015, somewhere around there. I think it was 2015. Whichever one Hunter Ray won. I believe that was 2015. But 2015 or 2014. I think it was 2014. It was the one Brian Hunter Ray won. But this is a race that has been loved by many IndyCar fans, and the Saturday night race has become sort of a tradition, but it's kind of been killed off considering they've been doing it during the day on Sundays. Now that they're going back to the Saturday night race, I can guarantee you a lot of IndyCar fans are going to be happy about this, and they're going to want to watch it on normal NBC because this is a very marketable race, and it's one a lot of people are going to want to tune in for. So this one should be swapped with Road America's TV channel date. So I think that Iowa should be on NBC and Road America should take the NBCSN date. Race number 13, Mid-Ohio. This is July 28th, and this is at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. This one, I think, the time-wise, very good. This has the main NBC dates Like this one, I would take off. For the main reason, I would put this one on NBCSN. I get why they can't put it on NBC, but in my opinion, I think they should put it on NBCSN because Mid Ohio has been really crappy in the of recent years. I mean, who could touch Alexander Rossi last year and even Newgarden's my favorite driver, but he absolutely crushed the field in 2017. So, I mean, Mid Ohio, it's Honda's playground because they have a lot of marketing. They're literally Honda's logos all over the track. So, I mean, that alone maybe as to why it's on main NBC because of the sponsorship at that track. But that alone, I just don't think it deserves to be on the main NBC. Race number 14, a race I'm honestly not looking forward to because now I'm going to get flashbacks. This is August 18th. This is Pocono. It is on at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Perfect timing there. This race is going to be on NBCSN. Again, I fairly agree with that date because, it's not one of those most hyped races, but it's an oval race that a lot of people like to enjoy. But I don't think it's deserving of a main NBCSN broadcast or main NBC broadcast. Gosh, I keep getting those screwed up. So, I think that's a pretty fair, broadcast and TV schedule there. This is where I think the rest of the races should be shown on main NBC. Race number 15, 3 more races to go. This is Gateway. This is on August 24th. It is a Saturday night race. It'll be at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Good timing there for a night race. This will be shown on NBCSN. Don't agree with this because at this point in Gateway, and maybe you could argue Pocono, you're heading into the championship. You're heading closer to the championship, and this is where everyone starts looking at points, seeing where the drivers are, how far are they apart from the leader, how far apart are they from, second or third in points. This is where a lot of fans tend to really focus on the championship and points. And I think for these next 3 races, as 2 of these next 3 races I'm spoiling, they will be shown on regular NBC or main NBC. And I just think Gateway should definitely be deserving of regular NBC because Gateway's been pretty entertaining. I mean, last year you had Willpower, Rossi, and Dixon that were up front, and pit strategy was interesting. 2017, you had that awesome move from Justin Newgarden onto Simon Pagenaud. So Gateway's been a pretty good race, and it's become one of the IndyCar's well-respected races since it came onto the schedule. So I think this should be held on main NBC for the prestige of the championship race coming up. Race number 16, probably one of my favorite races from last year, and this track came back last year and hasn't been run since, I think it was 2004, 2005. This is Portland. This was also on the schedule last year. It replaced the Watkins Glen Day from 2017. This will be held on September 1st at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Again, good timing, fits into everyone's criteria. This will be held on main NBC. Very deserving. This race was one of the best races in IndyCar last year. One of my favorite road course races from last year. Because I think I was never bored with that race. The pit strategy was good. Takuma Sato was getting run down by Ryan Hunter-Reay, and we almost saw a close finish. It was just good racing all around. You could pass really well. It was just entertaining all around. Portland was a fantastic race. And I think now that they put it on main NBC, I think that those TV ratings are going to explode because of the good racing it provided last year and just the overall nostalgia of going back to Portland. It's going to be a good race. So, can't wait for that one. And again, it's another very marketable race considering it's one race before the championship race. So, that is definitely deserving. And last of all, and this is the final race in the IndyCar season, is a new track as well. WeatherTech Laguna Seca Raceway. One of my favorite tracks of all time and a track I've always wanted to go to in real life. God, wait till my 20s. This will be on September 22nd, and this will be at 2:30 Eastern Time. Fits into everyone's criteria, I would say, especially the Californians that are out in the West, which is where Laguna Seca will be taking place because it's in the West. It's near Sonoma, but a bit northern, I guess. New track. We haven't seen Laguna Seca in a while. The one thing I really remember about Laguna Seca was the pass Brian Herta. I forgot who Brian Herta made a pass on, but it was a very, very famous pass that Brian Herta made on someone else. I forgot who it was, though. But Brian Herta made a famous pass at Laguna Seca, and ended up winning that race. So that's the place that Laguna Seca has held in every IndyCar fan's hearts as well as mine. So Laguna Seca has been very memorable. It's great to see it back on the schedule. It's been a good race in the past, and I expect that to be the same for this. This is going to be shown on main NBC, as it is going to be the championship race. Obviously, got to put it on the main network so everyone gets tuned in for the championship battle and see who can get a ring and who can get their next ring in the possibly NTT IndyCar series. So the one problem with the Laguna Seca race is I hope they don't do what they did last year for the Sonoma race in IndyCar, where they end up mixing up the broadcast with the NASCAR broadcast, and NASCAR ends up going overtime at Vegas, which is most likely going to happen. So I just hope they find a way to meet both ways and broadcast each other separately instead of having to flip around each other in order to get, as much camera time as they can on each race. So I hope that they don't mix in together. I hope one race gets to go first or second, and they see split apart so the TV ratings can equal each other out. So very excited for Laguna Seca and the championship race at Laguna Seca. That one's going to be fun. So thank you guys for watching this episode of IndyCar News. I just went through the entire TV schedule and basically the IndyCar schedule for 2019. I cannot wait for March 10th in St. Petersburg for IndyCar to return. It's going to be a very fun day. Go Joseph Newgarden and Team Penske. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you want me to talk about next regarding IndyCar, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.